My own sister tried to kill me. She put poison in my cup of tea, but thank God, my housemaid saw her. When I asked why, she said it's because she loves my husband, and she wants to marry him. That was the day I learned, jealousy can live even in your own blood. My dear friend, before I begin this story, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel, like, and share. Your support means so much to me, it helps us keep telling these true and touching African stories. Thank you so much. I am so incredibly blessed. That was me, pretty much every day. At 35, I felt like I was living a dream. I'm a doctor, which is a calling I've poured my heart and soul into. But the real center of my universe, that was my family. My husband, Henry, is, well, he's everything. He's this incredibly successful businessman, respected by everyone, but at home, he's just my Henry. The man who makes me laugh until I cry and who knows exactly how I take my coffee in the morning. And our kids. Oh my goodness. We have 2 boys, Leo and Noah, who are just bundles of pure, chaotic energy. Always running around the garden in our home here in Lagos, finding new ways to get dirty. And then there's our little girl, Maya. She has everyone, especially her daddy, wrapped around her tiny little finger. It was filled with laughter, the sound of Henry on a business call, and it was absolutely perfect. It was my sanctuary. But even in the brightest sunlight, there can be shadows. 2 years ago, my world just tilted on its axis. My parents, my rocks, were taken from us. It was sudden, and the grief was a wave that I thought would pull me under. They were the ones I called for advice, the ones who cheered me on through medical school. Losing them left this gaping hole in my life. And with that grief came a heavy sense of duty. My little sister, Olivia. There's a 15-year age gap between us. I remember when I was getting ready for university, she was this tiny little thing, always following me around, trying to help me pack. I wasn't just her big sister, in many ways, I felt like a second mom to her. After our parents died, that feeling intensified 1,000 times over. My last promise to them, whispered into the quiet of the hospital room, was that I would take care of her. Always. So, the very next thought in my head was, Olivia has to come live with us. It wasn't even a question. When I mentioned it to Henry, he didn't hesitate for a second. Of course, darling, he said. This is her home now. That's the kind of man he is. Bringing Olivia into our home felt so right. She was 20, just finding her feet in the world, and I loved being there to guide her. We'd have our late-night chats, just me and her, curled up on the sofa after the kids were in bed. We'd talk about her future, about the boys she liked, about her dreams. It felt like I was keeping our family together, honoring my parents' memory. I was so happy to have my sister under my roof. And honestly, I was bursting with pride for her. Olivia is sharp, really ambitious. She finished her NYSC with flying colors and then, boom, she landed this incredible job at a top bank in V. She was earning a great salary, buying herself nice things. She'd come home in these power suits, looking so confident and grown up, and my heart would just swell. That's my little sister, taking on the world. She tried to offer me money for rent and bills, but I wouldn't hear of it. No way, you save your money. Build your future. Get your own place when you're ready. Her success felt like my success. It was like we were showing the world, showing our parents wherever they were, that we were going to be more than okay. Her independence made me so proud. It was gradual. So small at first that if you blinked, it started with the little things. Like, when Henry would tell one of his funny stories at the dinner table, her laugh would just be a little bit too loud, or how she'd always manage to find the seat next to him. She would hang on his every word. The compliments started, too. "Oh, Henry, you're such a genius with business. Henry, no one tells a story like you do." At first, I thought it was sweet. I mean, who wouldn't admire Henry? He's a wonderful man, a great role model. I told myself she was just looking up to her successful brother-in-law. But then, a tiny, uncomfortable little knot would tighten in my stomach. And I'd immediately push it down, scolding myself. "Don't be silly, Amelia. That's your baby sister. It's innocent." I forced myself to believe it. In our home, there's Victoria. She's been our housekeeper for years, since before Leo was even born. Victoria isn't just someone who works for us, she's family. She's incredibly observant, and as loyal as the day is long. She moves around the house like a gentle spirit, but let me tell you, that woman misses nothing. She saw the things I was trying so hard to ignore. She saw Olivia, dressed for a night out, waiting by the door until she heard Henry's car pull into the drive before, casually, heading out. She saw the way Olivia's wardrobe changed, more, revealing outfits appearing on the weekends when Henry was home. Victoria saw the lingering looks and the accidental brushes of hands. While I was clouded by my love and my memories of the little girl she was, Victoria was seeing the woman she was becoming. And it was making her very worried. One afternoon, Elle was in the kitchen, humming to myself, preparing some snacks for the kids. Victoria came in, and she was wringing her hands in her apron. I know her tells. That's what she does when she's deeply troubled. "Madam," her voice so quiet I could barely hear her. "Madam, I want to talk to you about something." I smiled at her. "Of course, Victoria. What is it? Is everything okay?" She took a shaky breath. "Please, madam, don't be angry with me." Her eyes darted around, unable to meet mine. "It's about Sister Olivia." My smile tightened. "Madam, I think she is trying to get too close to Olga Henry." In a bad way. The world just stopped. The air in my lungs turned to ice. A hot, prickly anger just shot up my spine. It was so instant, so fierce. How could she? How dare she say something so poisonous, so disgusting, about my sister? "Victoria," and my voice was dangerously calm. "Never, ever let me hear you say something like that again. Do you understand me? That is my sister. You were mistaken." I turned my back on her, a clear dismissal. My heart was hammering against my ribs, not just with anger, but with a terrifying fear I refused to acknowledge. I walked out of that kitchen with my head held high, but inside, I was crumbling. I spent the rest of that day in a haze of angry justification. Victoria is jealous. She's a gossip. She's imagining things. I built a fortress of denial around my heart, brick by painful brick. I replayed every moment I could think of, every interaction between Olivia and Henry, and I deliberately scrubbed them clean of any suspicion. That laugh. She was just happy. That compliment. That lingering look. Just sisterly affection for her brother-in-law. I had to believe it. Because if I didn't, it meant that the one person I had promised my parents I would protect was a threat. It meant that my perfect home had a crack right down the middle. And I just couldn't face that. So I chose to be blind. A few weeks went by. I was polite but distant with Victoria. I was overly affectionate with Olivia, as if my kindness could somehow erase the awful accusation. Then came the night of Henry's annual company dinner for his partners, which we were hosting at our house. I came downstairs feeling elegant in my evening dress, ready to play the hostess. And I stopped dead at the bottom of the stairs. Olivia was already there, talking to Henry. She was wearing a dress. A red dress. It was stunning. And it was completely, utterly inappropriate for a family and corporate event. The neckline plunged, the slit went all the way up her thigh. It wasn't a party dress, it was a weapon of seduction. I saw Henry's momentary shock, the quick flash of discomfort in his eyes before he masked it. He glanced at me over her shoulder, and his look said it all, "Help me." In that instant, a huge, jagged crack appeared in my fortress of denial. The entire dinner was a performance. I smiled, I laughed, I made sure everyone's glasses were full. But it was all an act. My real attention was fixed on the drama unfolding at my own table. Olivia was relentless. She made sure her chair was practically touching Henry's. She ignored everyone else at the table, directing all her questions, all her dazzling smiles, at my husband. I could see Henry trying his best to deflect, to include me, to turn the conversation to other guests. But she was like a moth to a flame. I felt sick to my stomach. This was my home. These were our friends and colleagues. And right here, under the warm glow of my dining room chandelier, a battle was being waged for my husband. And the aggressor was my own sister. The tension was so thick, I felt like I was choking on it. After everyone had gone home and the house was finally silent, I found Henry out on the balcony, just looking at the Lagos skyline. I came and stood beside him, not touching, just feeling the cool night air. "Henry," I whispered, my voice shaky. "Am I going crazy? Am I imagining all this?" He turned and pulled me into his arms, holding me tight. "No, my love," his voice rumbling against my ear. "You were not going crazy." He told me he'd been feeling uncomfortable for months. That he'd noticed her changing behavior, the inappropriate comments, the way she always seemed to be there. He said he hadn't told me because he knew how much I loved her. He didn't want to be the one to break my heart or cause a war between us. He was trying to handle it quietly, hoping she would just get the hint. Hearing him confirm my worst fear was like a physical blow. It was a strange, horrifying mix of validation and complete devastation. Victoria had been right all along. And I had been a blind, stubborn fool. The days that followed were pure agony. I felt like I was living with a ghost. The little sister I had adored, the one I'd shared secrets with, was gone. In her place was this stranger who looked at my husband with hungry eyes. The betrayal was a constant, physical ache in my chest. How did this happen? I would lie awake at night, going over our entire lives together. Me teaching her to ride a bike. Us crying together at our parents' funeral. Where did I miss the signs? When did that love in her heart curdle into this ugly obsession? I started avoiding her. I took extra shifts at the hospital. I made excuses. The warmth in our home was gone, replaced by a suffocating, unspoken tension. Every time I looked at her, I saw the red dress, and my heart would just break all over again. It was a Thursday. I will never forget that day. It was one of those shifts at the hospital from hell. I was on my feet for what felt like an eternity. We had a major trauma case come in, followed by a code blue, and then a heartbreaking conversation with a family. By the time I finally got in my car to drive home, I was a shell of a person. I was emotionally and physically running on empty. I remember walking into my quiet house. Henry was working late, the kids were in bed. All I could think about was my bed. I wanted to crawl under the covers and just disappear. I felt so fragile, so utterly worn down. I was completely and totally vulnerable. I had barely managed to peel off my scrubs and fall onto my bed when I heard a soft knock. The door creaked open, and Olivia's head popped in. She had this big, sweet smile on her face. "Amelia, you look dead on your feet," she said, her voice full of concern. "I made you a cup of chamomile tea. To help you sleep." She walked into the room holding a steaming mug. The gentle scent of chamomile filled the air. And for one split second, my exhausted mind thought, how sweet. My sister is taking care of me. I started to reach for it. But then I saw her eyes. There was an unnatural brightness to in a bad way. My fingers were just inches from the cup when a voice ripped through the silence of the house. Victoria shouted, "Madam, no, don't drink that tea." Victoria flew into the room, her face ashen with sheer terror. She was pointing a trembling finger at the mug. "I saw her, madam." From the kitchen, the door was open. I saw her open a small packet and pour powder inside. It was like a switch flipped. Olivia's sweet, concerned expression dissolved into pure, ugly rage. Her face twisted into a snarl that I didn't recognize. "You interfering old witch!" She shrieked at Victoria, her voice venomous. "You've been trying to poison my sister's mind against me." Before I could even process what was happening, Olivia lunged for Victoria, her nails out like claws. A primal instinct took over. I scrambled out of bed and grabbed Olivia's arm, my exhaustion completely forgotten, replaced by a flood of adrenaline. "Olivia, no!" I screamed. The strength she used to try and fight me off was terrifying. This wasn't a sisterly squabble. This was raw, violent rage. We struggled, and the mug flew from her hand, smashing on the floor, the tainted tea seeping into the fibers of my bedroom rug. In the sound of that shattering porcelain, every lie, every pretense, was broken. There was no going back. My husband walked in on Henry, home early, standing in the doorway, his briefcase still in his hand. He took it all in a heartbeat. Me wrestling with my sister, Victoria sobbing in the corner, the shattered cup on the floor. "What is going on here?" His voice wasn't loud, but it had a weight, a power, that cut through everything. Victoria, through her tears, managed to explain. "Olga, she put something in Madam's tea. I saw her with my own two eyes." Henry's gaze moved from Victoria, to the mess on the floor, to my terrified face. And then his eyes landed on Olivia. I saw his expression change from confusion to a cold, hard fury I had never seen before. He didn't even need to ask. He saw the guilt and hate warring on her face. "Olivia," Henry said, his voice dangerously quiet as he stepped into the room. "Tell me what you put in that cup." And she just snapped. But it wasn't with remorse. It was with a torrent of jealousy and hate that she had clearly kept bottled up for years. "I love him," she screamed, her voice cracking, pointing a shaking finger at Henry. "I love him, not you. You don't appreciate him. You have everything. The perfect career, the perfect children, the perfect man. A life that should have been mine. I've loved him since I moved in. He deserves a woman who adores him, not some tired doctor who's never even home." She finally turned her crazed eyes to me. "I wasn't going to kill you," she spat, the words dripping with venom. "Just make you sick. Enough to be out of the picture for a while." Then he would have turned to me. He would have seen that I'm the one who should be by his side. He would have chosen me. I just stood there, my mind reeling, my heart in pieces. I was listening to complete and utter madness. The little girl I'd raised was gone. This person was a stranger. Henry didn't scream back. He didn't argue. He just looked at this raging, delusional woman who shared my blood, and then he pulled his phone out of his pocket. My brain caught up a second too late. "Henry, wait," I whispered, though I don't know why. Was it a last, desperate instinct to protect her? To protect the memory of her? He looked at me, his eyes full of a deep, painful resolve. "Amelia, my love," he said, his voice steady. "She tried to poison you. My wife. The mother of our children. This is not a family argument. This is a crime." And he made the call. As he spoke calmly to the police, Olivia's rage just collapsed into a whimpering, pathetic fear. The distant sound of sirens getting closer was the soundtrack to the end of my world as I knew it. When the police officers walked into my bedroom, my beautiful sanctuary, and put my little sister in handcuffs, a part of my soul just withered and died. The silence after they left was the loudest sound I've ever heard. Henry held me as I finally broke down, the sobs racking my entire body. The weeks that followed were a nightmare of legalities and emotional recovery. Olivia went to prison. There was no relief in that news, only a deep, hollow ache. And so, that's my story. I'm sharing this with you today, as painful as it is, because there's a lesson in my scars. It's not that you shouldn't trust anyone. It's that you have to trust your own intuition first. That little feeling in your gut that tells you something is wrong. Don't ignore it. Don't explain it away. Listen to it. Protecting your peace and your family is not selfish, it's essential. My family is healing, slowly. My bond with Henry is unbreakable. And I will forever be grateful to Victoria, a woman whose loyalty and courage literally saved my life. We have to be so careful, everyone. Not with a paranoid heart, but with a wise one. Thank you so much for watching this African Tales story. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, drop a comment, and share it with someone who loves good stories. Your support helps us keep bringing you more powerful African tales that inspire and teach life lessons. Please hit that subscribe button and join our storytelling family. Every week, we share more emotional, real, and unforgettable African stories just like this one. Stay blessed, stay strong, and never stop believing in your own story. See you in the next one.